Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Tuesday, 26th of September. Yesterday we saw the dollar effectively strengthen against everything. It kept on pushing through. It was a real day of speakers, actually. We had ECB speakers becoming a little bit more hawkish, but not anywhere near as hawkish as the US speakers, it seems, on what was happening. The US has its own problems at the moment. It's at that point where they've got to agree new thresholds for the debt the country would go into, which is always a bit of a bicker, but we'll see if it gets sorted. So the risks are closed down, shut down in the US in terms of public services, etc. However, there are signs it might be sorted out a little bit easier this time, but it's a normal palaver as people try and get benefits one way or t'other. Anyway, on the dollar remains the strongest at the moment. We're seeing it against this euro here. I was looking at the sentiment yesterday. It remains that's the way it's still looking like there's the big money still coming out of the euro effectively, or short in the euro. Now, so anyway, technically I was looking at it to see if there's any other sort of support areas to watch for. We've broken quite a few of them. The next sort of key level is around about 105.16, somewhere in that region, so it's not a mile away from where price is at the moment, 60 odd pips or so. So there is some quite key support. Just looking at the moment, I mean, yesterday we saw it break off down. Let's just take here, we took the spike out of things, it broke down. I was looking at it as a potential, but there was other trades I looked at which I liked better at the time. I mean, as it happened, it ran off, and it was one of those days where I wouldn't have gone wrong on anything I looked at. Basically, they all worked, but I wouldn't be in all of them because I'd have had too much exposure to one or two currencies. But it was good. It was a good day anyway. The pound is already gone. It's gone too far this morning. Euro we'll look at post 8 o'clock. The pound's already pushed off here southbound, and it's already down to its weekly S1. This effectively means if we break this S1, we've got a higher probability of running down to the S2. In fact, it's a higher probability than it running back up to its weekly pivot. So it does look very soft. Nothing I want to jump into where it is at the moment. It's gone too far already. Dollar yen, where we're making these sort of we've taken out highs, and if I can switch this to a weekly, you can see where we are relative. It's last year, wasn't it, that we were pretty close to this. Now we've closed. Have we closed nearly as high? Pretty much almost as high as we'd reached back then, 149, 150. Bank of Japan doesn't seem to be doing too much apart from saying it will continue with easing, and that's not necessarily helping the yen at the moment. And well, as much as I've stayed out of it purely on the risk of intervention, we might just get sellers coming into this at some point. I'm leaving it for now, and well, I'm not a buyer of it at the moment either. It's just too much risk. Aussie dollar. Aussie's coming back southbound. It's been consolidated over the last few days. It was basically started failing last week there, and it's heading back to these sort of this key level here. I've still got my alert on there. I was looking last time, it was around this area. There was a stack of sell orders. They've disappeared when I last looked. Obviously, well, some of them, I'm sure there would have been some profit made out of some of these. Some of the long moves that were going there, the stops that were obviously below that area, so that's all closed. We'll see what happens, but that sort of area could be a bit of a target as we run forward. It's already moved quite a long way today though, so it's sort of off the table for me at the moment. US dollar CAD, Well, the CAD was doing quite a bit of a recovering. Let's put this back to a daily. There we go. Was doing quite a recovery shot, but it yesterday, even yesterday, it had some strength in it at times. It sort of it actually closed down lower, but I was looking at this 4-hourly head and shouldery pattern. Yesterday it was up here somewhere at the time. It started coming off. There's one or two of us were getting a bit sort of, hey, this might do something here, and it didn't. It did. It bounced. I was out of things from this point of view, away from the desk, and it took quite a bounce there. So it still could roll over. The patterns, the longer the pattern and the more this goes up, it looks like, well, it's got potential. It breaks these highs of the previous shoulder. The pattern is wrecked basically, so I would expect more upside, and I could understand why with a strong US dollar at the moment. New Zealand dollar, well, New Zealand dollar actually ended up with a positive day yesterday. It's held up that little bit better. It's coming off a bit at the moment. Again, it's not a trade for me today, but it's a market that hasn't gone quite as weak as some of the others, which allows me to look at some of the others. As I said, the CAD had been holding up well. It's still holding. When I'm looking at the cross pairs, this is the Euro CAD had been holding up pretty well. Yesterday, effectively the CAD strength saw this come through here. Didn't trade this one. Traded the pound Canadian, which did similar. This could come back up to its pivot here, or of course roll back towards the S1. So there's potential for this. In fact, I'll probably leave a couple of signals as I'm going through it now, in terms of I really would like it up here into the pivot and see if it reacts off the pivot. So that's ideal. It might roll beforehand, but there might be, I mean, the pound CAD was the one yesterday I took. It didn't look like it moved so much as pound Aussie. I'm not interested in that at the moment. Pound CAD here, well, already the pound is being particularly soft. This didn't look much, but it gave us a 2.1 to 1 return, 2% return. If this breaks down today, it could be an opportunity right down to its S2. It hasn't caught the daily pivot, so it's got probability of running down there. Finally, Euro New Zealand. I'm sort of looking at this. This isn't too far. This is one that I did take yesterday as well. It's still in this lovely downward trend. It's catching a bit of a bounce at the moment. Need to watch it carefully. So I'll come back to here. It's been in this sort of downtrend, and it's pretty close to its daily pivot here. Now I would let it hit that pivot, and I want to see a reaction off that. So I've got a bit of time to wait on this, but again, I'd be looking down towards its S1 again. So we traded it yesterday. Again, it gave us a 2 to 1. So this is what I'm looking for. See if it repeats. It was in a lovely move yesterday. Nice clean move, and it moved pretty nicely. It's not quite as steep a flag. The flag happened back here a little bit, so it just drifted off a little bit. So just be a bit more careful in it. But it does look like it could give us a trade mid-morning. Right, okay, there's the majors. Quick look then, indices, and actually let's just look at gold first. Whoa, gold's off this morning. I'm looking at crude, beg your pardon. Crude's off this morning. I've pressed the wrong button. There we are, gold. I thought, hang on a minute, that's the wrong way. Gold's off anyway, as well. At the moment, the US dollar's strong. Heading southbound, lower highs through here. Yeah, continued weakness really with gold at the moment. Now it's sort of semi-surprising. There's obviously China has its problems, particularly with its construction development sort of side of things. We've got Evergrande causing problems again, etc., and other companies within that sector having problems, defaulting, etc., and it's putting a massive pressure and strain on the Chinese economy, which in turn makes money run for safety, and the US dollar seems to be safety. Gold's not being safety. I would have thought that maybe some money would have run towards gold, but it's not at this stage. Lower highs, it's being sold, so not interested too much in that. Anyway, as I was saying, crude's off this morning. It's not off masses. A strong dollar often sees crude coming back a little bit, so it's almost a good thing in terms of I'd rather see it come off for a decent correction so I could buy it again, or start buying it again. At the moment it's quite messy. It did actually, its 2 o'clock sort of shift came to the, or ended up into the downside yesterday. It looked like it was going to pick up at one stage, but we never had any follow through on the upside. It just reversed, rolled over. So looking soft at the moment. Okay, that's where we are with oil. Looking at the equity markets. So equity markets, yesterday we saw a decent bounce there, about 0.5% increase on the S&Ps yesterday, but we're seeing that coming off this morning again. Dollar buying, but it's not necessarily going into bonds. The bonds are being sold, so it's dollar that's gaining lower highs here. It just looks soft as it is. I was wondering whether it would hold on that quarterly. Well, it did for a while, but it's broken through this morning and looking soft. Its markets look really quite grim as I'm looking through them at this stage. Same old story right the way through here. Interesting, some big money's going into the S&Ps, but in quite a way. But the timing of the big money's not quite as we would be trading. They can afford to edge in when the market's still heading southbound, and it can continue being southbound. They're trading futures, so they're probably getting a reasonable deal for their buck at the moment. Close home with DAX really just if I can get the DAX, that's it. It finally stopped on the DAX. DAX is been selling off here, continuing to break down as well. No surprises really. Retracements might give opportunities for selling. We are close to a double bottom here at this stage. Might see a little bounce. Hasn't called a daily pivot. A pullback to that might see it. We had a gap through the Asian session there. We might see something come back on this, but it does look soft. FTSE, which was the darling for a while, well, we've broke it. We've come out of that range that was sitting around the top there to the downside. Peaked through it yesterday. Running through, we're just on the 8 o'clock open, so cash markets open now, and well, we're not seeing a little blip, but this market does look soft. But having said that, a decent blip might give an opportunity to sell. Right, I'm going to leave it there. I wish you a great day's trading, and I'll catch you tomorrow morning. Take care. Bye for now. Right guys, back to the room. So